And you were here for SCW, the wrestling channel, here on YouTube.com. You may be listening on podcast form as well. This is episode 10 of This Week in Wrestling, talking about all the biggest events of the last 7 days of WWE, AEW, Impact, and much, much more. So make sure to stick around for all your favourite topics throughout the last 7 days. I'm joined in a hot seat by a very special guest this week from This Week in Metropolis, the one and only Steely07. Steely, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for coming back on the show. It's great to have you on once again. Of course, This Week in Metropolis, of course, is now on YouTube as well as podcast form. You can go and check them out, go and subscribe and check out. And this week, the latest one you've done is top 5 video games, I believe.
Yep, that went live yesterday, and it's up on YouTube as well now. So you can check that out. That's mine and King P's favourite top 5 games from our lives, and not just the top 5 of all time in general, just what games that have meant something to us. So yeah, check that out.
Yeah, I recommend everyone checking it out for sure. And I have to ask then, just because we're on a wrestling show right now, James, do you have a favourite wrestling game of all time?
If I had to pick one, it wouldn't actually be one that I owned. It was one that I played a lot around friends, but it would definitely be No Mercy, which was on the N64 for me, the best wrestling game that was ever made, in my opinion. And I know I spoke to Matt about it earlier today, and he said to me his favourite was WWF Superstars, which I think was an arcade game back in the 90s, late 80s. I can't remember when, but yeah, so they would be our favourites.
Oh, fantastic. No, great choice. I mean, I remember there's been a few days previously where you've probably beaten me on No Mercy, which, of course, was probably not great memories for me, but certainly was a great game nonetheless. And I remember that was the first one we had the ladder match brought in, and along with the cage match, and yeah, the rosters and stuff. I mean, I wish the games would go back to that. It feels that to recent times that they've not been as favourable. But have you seen Battlegrounds? Does that tempt you at all?
Not at all. I think it's too... I mean... It's more, for me, that it's more of a kind of jokey sort of wrestling game. Not that, wrestling games should be too serious, because I think then that's a step it takes away from, like we're saying, No Mercy was very kind of, I can't remember what they referred to the style of that one as, but it was, a lot of the games now are very clean and they try to get them graphically on point, where I think this one is taking it in a different direction. What did you say it's called? Battlegrounds?
Yes, Battlegrounds. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be released this week.
Yeah, and I just think it's like I say, there's going to be people that buy it. I think it's certainly different. That's what I would say. Definitely,
I would say it's different. I mean, if you can throw a superstar into an alligator's mouth, it's certainly different to the realism that you may have got from a No Mercy game back in the old school days. But fingers crossed we might get back to those at one certain point. But we'll kick on to the news then this week. But as I do stress to everyone, do go and check out This Week in Metropolis. Fantastic podcast with Steely and from King Pete as well there. You won't recommend it. And give them a subscribe on YouTube as well. As say, episodes drop every Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Every Wednesday, yep.
Every Wednesday.
That's when they're out.
Fantastic. So, yeah, do go and check them out. But so we'll kick off with the news then. And unfortunately, there's been a sad passing this week in the wrestling world. And, of course, it's Road Warrior Animal. He passed away at the age of 60. According to reports, it was of natural causes. Half of one of the greatest tag teams ever, sadly, passing away.
Yeah, it was really sad to hear that news. And it seems weird because we've probably only just recently seen him again on the Dark Side of the Ring documentaries that were on. There was the one when they were talking about Hulk and things like that. But the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, whatever you knew them as, they were, probably one of the most recognisable tag teams. And I think you even if you're not a wrestling fan, you would know of LOD from back in the day. And yeah, it's very sad. I think he was in his early 60s, was he?
Yeah, he was, I think, 60 exactly. So really, really sad. And like you said, an iconic tag team with the face paint, of course, with the shoulder pads with the spikes and stuff. They really stood out for their generation in the 80s in the NWA. Going on then, of course, to WWE, as we said there as well, for the Legion of Doom, and back to WCW. I think spells in Japan as well. They've been all over. And one of my favourite tag teams growing up, I thought certainly they stood out. And I just remember having the little action figures very early on. They were sort of ones you had to have. So yeah, very, very much going to be missed, of course. And now a tag team together now in heaven, but no, sadly will be missed is Road Warrior Animal. But we're going to talk about NXT. I know NXT is one of your favourite shows of the week, James, in wrestling, and there's been two big matches this week to set up for NXT TakeOver. We've got a TakeOver next Sunday, seems to have come out of nowhere. Does that take you by surprise as well?
It does seem to have come around quick, because I feel like with takeovers, they used to be kind of 4 or 5 of them a year, rather than it being kind of as frequent as the pay-per-views are on the main roster. But it does feel like this one's come pretty quickly after TakeOver 30, was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was only just before SummerSlam, wasn't it?
Yeah, so, but, I mean, they probably need to do a big event with NXT just to kind of start a new chapter afterwards, or follow on from the new feuds that are going to be set up from there.
Absolutely, and of course with a lot of rumours spreading out this week that unfortunately COVID has actually hit the NXT locker room, as well as AEW, which will be coming on later in the show as well. But apparently, according to Dave Meltzer, of course, plans had to be changed throughout NXT yesterday to help build toward this takeover. But we have 3 matches set, and we'll talk about the women's battle royal first off. Of course, Candice LeRae was the winner there. She took out Tegan Nox before the match even started, and she had a great sequence finish there where she actually eliminated, I believe, Shotzi Blackheart from the steel steps to finish off the match. Also was great stand-up performances as well from Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. I think for the first sort of 70% of that match, if you were in there and eliminated, it was one of those two that threw you out until they decided to eliminate each other. But I thought this was a very well done battle royal, and it's going to be interesting to see Candice LeRae in the championship match against Io Shirai next Sunday. Yeah,
definitely. I thought she was going to win, to be honest. I was looking at potentials in the ring, and I thought, we've kind of seen Shotzi Blackheart recently had a match with her. I think it was only last week, maybe, that she had her championship match against her, which was a strong showing. And that's the one thing I do like about NXT, that they do seem to give the lower card opportunities. And you look at that women's division now in NXT, and it is stacked with top level potential as well for future matches. But I think the way things have been going, I think that it was always going to pan out that way, and potentially I could see an interference in this match coming up.
Yeah, it would be interesting
on what happened at the beginning.
Absolutely, it'd be interesting if Tegan was to interfere here. But what would be also an interesting twist? What if Candice was to win, and they could build for Tegan to actually become champion in sort of maybe a few months' time?
I think that would be a good way of booking it if they did plan to put the title on her, because she's obviously another one who's only recently had a match against Io Shirai, and again had a really good showing. I think the problem with that is that I think what they could do is probably pan it out a bit longer and potentially have maybe a triple threat down the line somewhere. But I can definitely see if they were going to go down that road, then that would be the better way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, indeed. As well as that, just one more touch on the women's battle royal before we move on. Of course, Rhea Ripley didn't win. I was strongly feeling she was going to win. I was certain we were going to get the money match of Io and Ripley. Does this kind of almost set in stone now? With rumours of a WWE draft, as I seem to mention now almost every week now until we get the announcement it's going to happen, do we feel that Rhea Ripley now will be going up? It feels like her time with the NXT Championship now seems to have passed.
Yeah, I think it's possible. She's obviously she's had the strap, so it's not like she's trying to win that before she goes up. I think there's a good feud there between her and Raquel Gonzalez that can be played out a bit longer. She's obviously just come off the back of a small feud with Martinez. So yeah, potentially I think it's, but there's so many potentials that could go. I mean, I'd have Io in the main roster. I think she could easily, step up and be a great challenger for Oscar and, others alike. So there is a lot of potential in that division. I think in the past we was always worried that what was below the top tier of the women's division, but I think now there's so many options that are still coming through below your kind of Blackhearts and people like that. I mean, even not that I'm saying I think she's going to be a title holder anytime soon, but Casey Catanzaro in that match, she pulled out some great and actually stayed in there for a lot longer than I thought. I thought she would have been one of the early ones to go. She'd probably have a little kind of Kofi-esque moment. I know she's had one before, but I thought she stood out as well as another kind of, they're slowly trying to, get a bit of momentum behind her and her tag team partner's name. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Caden Carter.
Yes, yeah. So, I think, like I say, and there was a few faces in that battle royal that I didn't recognise as well. So, the future's strong for the NXT women's division, definitely.
I think that's very well said there, personally. I mean, like you said there's some unknowns that were in that match. Yes, they were eliminated very early on, but that almost goes to show that, like you said, if a couple of people were to be brought up to the main roster, then you actually look and say, well, hang on, we've got people that can carry the flag, because people that were like Shotzi Blackheart, who were probably jobbing this time 6 months ago, you can turn and say, well, they're ready now for that top tier part of the card. So it's very interesting. The women's division, like you say, is so strong in NXT. You could arguably say it's one of the strongest divisions in all of wrestling, let alone just their brand. So it's very exciting times, and I'm very much looking forward to Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae.
Just one little side note on the women's division as well. There's always still the potential that Tessa Blanchard could come into there, because there's the news this week that's came out about the video game, which we probably should have mentioned a minute ago, about there being an image on the game of Tessa Blanchard on there, is in a kind of cartoony animated version. But it was like for like an image of her, and they've had to take it down apparently. And sometimes I do wonder whether that was on there for a reason. And it's certainly something that's kind of been playing on my mind. And if they did lose one or two of the top tier females in that division, what a better way to replace them with Tessa?
She's one of the best in the game today. There's no getting past it. I mean, Tessa Blanchard would add depth to any women's division in the world in wrestling. I mean, literally, she was an Impact World Champion. I mean, she did a great job in amongst that company. She really raised her stock in a couple of years she was with them. And like you say there, I mean, that image was taken down. But sometimes they're meant to be kept in the know of who's coming in to keep these games as up to date as possible. Maybe it was a little bit of a leak. We'll have to wait and see. And like you say there, I mean, if she was to come in, I mean, that would be unbelievable. But we'll move on anyway. And another match that's been set up as well is the North American Championship. And like wife, let's talk about the husband. Johnny Gargano has managed to get himself a North American Championship match against Damien Priest. I felt that this one, of course, I mean, most matches are being thrown together here, let's be fair, because we've only got 10 days to build for this takeover. But this one really sort of come out of left field. But I think they did a good job on the show of trying to build these two up.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another reason why, if they were going to change the title holders, that would be a good story to take it down, with both the couple having a belt each. I know it's been done before in different ways, but I think that would be a good, a heelish way of doing it as well, with the two of them, who I think their character works actually. I wasn't too over with it at first, but I think it's growing on me now. I think they're seeing Johnny Gargano as kind of a snidey little heel is, it's definitely growing on me, and his character work and it will only help him. I think it's really good when you are able to flip between the two, as long as it's not too often. So credit to him for that, because I never saw him as a heel before, and now I'm starting to believe it more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're doing a great job. I love him whenever they're home and they're doing the Mr. and Mrs. stuff with the food. And I mean, also when he's ordering the TV last week after it had been broken, he's getting that hundreds, 100-inch screen and stuff like that, full on HD and sort of, all the bits and bobs that come with it. But we need to know. We never got an update if he got that TV. He said it was coming in. But hopefully once he's won the championship, or if he wins the championship, maybe we might see more skits at home. But definitely, I'm enjoying the Mr. and Mrs. work between them. And like you say, it's a good build between them. And ironically, we've got a mixed tag next week as well. Of course, the husband and wife combo, Mr. and Mrs. Gargano, will be going up against Io Shirai and Damien Priest, I do believe. So that should be an exciting match that's been put together. Let's talk about what I think has been one of the main issues, but one of the main talking points, certainly in the last 24 hours. Everyone seems to be so happy about this, is the Gauntlet Eliminator match, and it's Kyle O'Reilly. He won the match. Of course, there was the likes of Kushida. Cameron Grimes was in there as well, along with Timothy Thatcher and Bronson Reed. I thought that, first off, this was a great match because, like you said earlier, about building for the future, all these guys haven't been in that main event spot before, so we were always going to get something fresh. But I think Balor versus O'Reilly just seems a mouth-watering clash between these two.
Yeah, definitely. And it could set up a lot of things as well. I mean, there's an element of evolution for me to all of this, because I can see, you remember when, Randy Orton won the belt for the first time, the main belt, and then Triple H turned on him. Yeah. And I could easily see that being, I'm not saying Kyle O'Reilly's going to win the belt. I mean, but what a better way to plant that little seed if he did, because then you will get a little bit of tension from inside with Adam Cole supposedly being the leader and the main draw of the group. So there's a lot of potential from it. But I agree with you. I think the match was really good. I was actually putting my money on Kushida to win, because I think he's gone on a little bit of a turn recently in his character, which is for the best, because he came in with such high hopes, and I really feel like they've kind of mucked his character up a little bit, and I felt like it needed a bit of a fresh start. And him coming back and showing a little bit more aggression obviously came to his downfall in the match itself, but with Velveteen Dream coming in and interfering. But I feel like he could have had a really good match against Balor as well. I feel if he's at his top of his game. But the story with Kyle O'Reilly will work really well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there's so many different directions that it can go in. And for me, I'm excited to see what's going to happen here. And like you said, Kushida, I thought Kushida was a very popular challenger as well there. But of course, he was taken out by the Velveteen Dream as well. Perhaps that's a setup for a match at TakeOver also, I would imagine. But back onto Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, like you say there, Undisputed Era, will they all be turning babyface? I mean, Roderick Strong, technically, earlier in the night, was a part of the babyface mashed-up tag team against, I think he was with Danny Burch against Fabian Eichner and Raul Mendoza as well. They'll be facing off next week now, of course, Undisputed Era against Lorcan and Birch to see who will take on Breezango, and definitely a confusing scenario there to put things together. But I love your take on the evolution style there for Kyle O'Reilly. If that was to happen, the thumbs up, the thumbs down, and taken out of the group. I mean, I think a lot of people still want to see that fatal four-way with the Undisputed Era against each other.
Yeah, I mean that would be an interesting match, because there have been signs recently. I can't remember what episode it was, maybe last week or the week before, where Kyle O'Reilly, he done something. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I'd need to look back. You might remember, but he done something that was almost like telling them to stop beating someone up. It might have. He showed a different side to himself and also to the UE, and I was like, that's a little seed planted there, that you've kind of got a slight turn in to a babyface side, certainly for him. And again, you've seen it as well when they were beating up. Oh God, they were beating someone up in the ring, and then some of them were trying to hold the others back. And yeah, so I think there's definite signs for small fractures in the group. Although it didn't show that at the end of it when you had the other two guys come out. I think Bobby Fish was missing, wasn't he, from the event last night? So yeah, could be one of the guys suffering from COVID, unfortunately. But who knows? But yeah, it's interesting to see where they take it.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said there, I mean, there's been a couple of instances there. I mean, I think the one in the ring you're referring to was Drake Maverick and Killian Dane at that with the gang warfare. And even interestingly, well, I think Tommaso Ciampa was the one last week as well with Jake Atlas that built up their match when they were on the outside of Full Sail. I think that was the other time there. So they're definitely doing a lot of things there with Kyle O'Reilly to tease potentially a singles run, perhaps a break, a babyface run. I really was a fan of his ROH run. I wasn't a big follower of ROH during his run, but I started following it from 2016, and that was his sort of chase for the championship against Adam Cole at the time, which was their big event, Final Battle, which he won, which was just before he signed for WWE, ironically. He won the belt and had to drop it 3 weeks later at Wrestle Kingdom just because he was going to join WWE. But yeah, I mean, I think he's got the tools. I think he can do it. He's got everything in his arsenal. So I think it's exciting times ahead there. You mentioned the COVID stuff as well. We noticed the commentary team wasn't the same this week either. Of course, neither Wade Barrett or Vic Joseph were there. Hopefully they're okay as well. I mean, there's been no announcements who isn't affected with the COVID situation that's been going on with NXT. That's been kept very in-house, but of course, only speculation at this point. But one last touching point on NXT before we move on. Just wanted to get your thoughts, because there was a video that was played as well regarding, well, it was almost like someone saying that they were going to be appearing at TakeOver. It was almost like a championship held in sort of like a gas cabinet, and the championship has been held hostage for far too long. It was like a squeaky voice. You couldn't quite tell if it was male or female, But certainly a very interesting point leading into NXT TakeOver. And for those that may not have noticed it, it is on WWE's YouTube page. I actually had to go and re-watch this over because of the fact that it went so quickly when watching. I actually kind of missed it a little bit, so I needed to go re-watch it over. But certainly potential. You mentioned Tessa Blanchard earlier on. I mean, Karrion Kross could be someone that could be come back very quickly. He's been seen training in the gym already, and he vacated the NXT Championship. There's certainly more question marks here.
Yeah, I must have missed that because I didn't see that. But then I was watching it very early this morning, so I was a little bit tired. But I will have to check that out. But yeah, I always like the mystery of doing things like that as long as it's done right. One of the things we always used to look forward to with NXTs was someone being in the crowd. Obviously, that's not possible at the moment. But if they're going to bring someone else in or someone back potentially, it's exciting times. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worth a look. I mean, literally, the clip is only 30 seconds long. It's one of those blink and you missed it kind of things. And I remember at the time watching it thinking, hang on, that's got what come back like, it was almost like it definitely, less is more, I suppose they say sometimes. You definitely want to know more what's going to be happening with that. And it certainly looks like we're not going to have to wait too long to find out. But let's move on to AEW and Dynamite, and what a Dynamite show it was, as always, bringing the fun each and every Wednesday evening they do. But of course, they've been affected with the COVID situation as well. And of course, some notable absentees were on this show this week, and of course none other than Lance Archer was the main one, of course, and he actually was announced tested positive for COVID. Hope he's okay, and I hope he'll make a very speedy recovery. Of course, they were due to have a 6-man tag team match that he was meant to be involved with Brian Cage and as well Ricky Starks. Brian Cage was missing this week as well, notably also, but that meant, of course, they had to change things up. So Hobbs, Darby Allin had to sit aside. John Moxley instead defended his championship against Eddie Kingston. It was a good way to put this, actually, as a last-minute on-the-fly thing, because Eddie Kingston claimed he wasn't actually eliminated properly from the Casino Battle Royal at All Out. So this was a good way to actually tie up a loose end of a storyline.
Yeah, definitely. And he's been mentioning it over the previous weeks. I haven't actually watched AEW yet. I haven't had the time, but I did read the results from the last night's show. And it sounded like they booked that the right way by all accounts.
Absolutely. I mean, John Moxley going over there as well and using, again, this sort of a variation. It was like a bulldog sleeper almost into like a rear naked choke, but in that bulldog form. At the same way he beat Brody Lee at Double or Nothing earlier this year. And good to see more moves being used into his arsenal. Are you enjoying John Moxley as an AEW champion?
I am. I do feel like it needs a freshen up at the top. He's held it for, I don't know now, probably 6-7 months. I can't remember.
Yeah, February Revolution, I believe.
So he's held it for a substantial amount of time, and I do feel like if, again, you don't want the title to change hands every week or even every pay-per-view, but I think it does need sometimes. I mean, I honestly thought MJF was going to win the belt at the last pay-per-view, but obviously that never happened, and I felt that would have been the right time with MJF as well. Although he's got years left in him, it's not like he's never going to win it. He will own that at one point. But yeah, I mean, he's been solid as the champ without being, incredible. I wouldn't put it down as, amazing. I feel like the TNT title has probably been a little bit more exciting, in all honesty. I feel like some of the matchups in that, but and I think because it's been defended, it seems a lot more as well, like with kind of Cody's open challenge stuff and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see who they decide to stick it on next.
Yeah, certainly indeed. I mean, it looks like now Archer will be the initial one, and then we'll see who it's going to be for the pay-per-view. I mean, that's going to be very interesting to see who will be lined up there. Potentially, we could see Omega and Page continuing their sort of like little program that's going on. I think it's been one of the best storylines of the year. I mean, Omega, for the second week in a row, was on commentary, very much solidifying that he said, look, I was in there for a good time, not for a long time as a tag team wrestler. I'm waiting for the right opportunity to come back in and go back into the singles run. So it feels almost to me, looking at this storyline now playing out, is that he's going to try and let Hangman Page do all the work to get into the top 5 of the singles ranks. Let's say Page gets the number 2 or number 1. Omega then probably comes in, finds his way to get to the number 1 contendership by beating Page. I feel that could be the direction of the storyline. I don't know if you feel that would be a good way to go.
Yeah, it always felt like it was going to be a competitive kind of who can get there first. And then it's probably going to end up with them two being the ones that challenge for a number 1 contender spot. It feels that way.
certainly will be interesting to do so. And a lot of people I know favourably want to see the same thing as what they saw in the first Dynamite, of course, because we're near the anniversary now. They want to see almost the way that Moxley stalked Omega after the match for the big brutal attack on the first ever Dynamite. They're hoping the role will be reversed on the anniversary show after Moxley will potentially beat Archer. We'll have to wait and see if that will happen down the line. But Miro as well made his debut this week in ring also in a tag team match with Kip Sabian, defeating Joey Janela and Sonya Kiss. I mean, big fan of Miro. I know that you are. Do you see a bright future for him in AEW?
I do, yeah. I think, again, he's certainly someone who could be at the top of the card. I mean, we always felt that he could have been there in WWE. It just never kind of clicked, really. So I think if they use him the right way, then definitely.
I totally agree. I think that the sky is the limit. As I said only a couple of weeks ago, I just felt to myself that looking at Miro, it just felt like really important when he came in. And I know that not so much has happened since this tag team match. People may argue and say that he's better or bigger than the position he's currently in, but give it time. He needs to work his way up the ladder, and I think he'll work his way to the top. I see bright things in Miro's future. But another person he was teamed with, of course, as I mentioned, a Kip Sabian, a good old Norwich boy. I feel that maybe I should just give it a little shout out to there. James, what are your thoughts, Kip Sabian?
Yeah, I haven't seen a great deal of him, but from what I have, he does look promising. Certainly potential for kind of a mid-card title if they either bring another title in or potentially TNT title potential, I think there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, he's got Miro as the best man, and Miro calls himself the best man. Giving infringement, Stilio 7's the best man. We're not taking that away from him at all. But elsewhere on Dynamite as well, we mentioned Cody Rhodes earlier. He made the return also, and it looks like we could have almost like one of those sort of classic dog collar matches that we could be coming up with Cody and Brody Lee. A challenge was put out for Cody. He's got 7 days to respond, and I think that should be a very exciting match between those two.
Yeah, definitely, and it was exciting seeing him come back. I did see a little clip of him on Twitter of him coming back, new look, fresh look, and everything like that. He's gone with the dark hair. Yeah, and he's great in the ring. I mean, WWE must be kicking themselves for not pushing him when they had the chance. And fair play to him. He's kind of done it all himself. He's gone around all the indie shows. And now look at the position he's in now. He's one of the top drawers in that company. And that's, again, what I'm saying about the TNT title. He kind of makes that exciting. His selling of moves is great. His repertoire of moves himself is really good. So, yeah, and on the mic as well, you know, you can't really beat a Cody promo. So, yeah, I think that should be interesting. Brody Lee's had a great start there, really. You can't really knock him for what he's done so far in AEW either. So it should be a really good match.
Should be indeed. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it immensely. I think that it's a good stipulation they brought back as well. Not a match that we've seen too often. So, no, very much looking forward to it. Let's move on to Monday Night Raw. Let's talk about that topic that we're going to have to really try and keep as brief as possible because it could be easy to talk about this for like almost an hour on its own. Of course, it's that famous word, retribution. What the hell happened? Let's go for a little bit of the groundwork, and then we can go in and just dissect it piece by piece. So they came out at the start of Raw with new looks, new masks. They've almost masked down to, well, some of them where you can tell who they are now, where we've got the reveals out of the way. We have them where they're signed to WWE contracts, causing chaos, but now they can do what they want. They have a problem with everyone that is signed with WWE earning money, yet they've signed contracts themselves. They're continually battling the Hurt Business, but they do still have backup. They continue to attack people through the evening, which, okay, I've got no problem with that part. But then we come back to the six-man tag team match to main event the show. They've got new names, and let's go through some of those new names. So Dominik Dijakovic is now known as T-Bar. We've got Dio Madden, who's now known as Mace, which, to be fair, of the three, I think is probably the best of the three. And then Shane Thorne has gone with the name, and let's try and keep a straight face here, Slapjack. I don't know how and where this has come from. It has come out since that some of these names have got rude meanings on the Urban Dictionary. Now, I'm going to try and keep this PG on this show. I don't try not to go into the rude content if I can prevent it. So I'm not going to go those means. If you want to know, you can go and look yourself, but I can tell you they're not clean. I just don't know what was going through their head. And just to make things even worse, that six-man tag had the lamest finish ever of a DQ. So, I mean, everything just felt like an absolute car crash. it goes to the point that even in WWE, there's been the wrestle votes, who are very reliable, by the way, with their sources, said that a lot of people felt sorry for them backstage, and a lot of the changes that were met with Retribution was actually, received with a lot of laughter. Makes you feel sorry for a lot of those talents.
I wonder, Steve, whether, and I've read similar reports about some of the backstage faults on it all. I wonder whether they're going to keep these guys with these stupid names and under masks and whatever, to then potentially maybe Survivor Series. I know that's something that you've thought of as well. Potentially something happening at Survivor Series. Maybe them getting beaten and then coming back as the characters that we know they are. One thing that I did read and someone had picked up is that none of the three guys who wrestled for Retribution used any of their kind of signature moves that they would as the characters that we know them. I mean, I don't really know Dio Madden as a wrestler. I don't think many people do, to be fair. Shane Thorne, I wouldn't necessarily associate certain moves with him either. I've only seen him a few times, but certainly Dominic Dijakovic, you would recognise moves of his, but it was all very, clunky and no real rhythm to it. And I think it was a really poor match in general against, again, the mind boggles really when you're fighting in the Hurt Business, who are heels, or are they heels? I mean, it's really confusing. So the same article that I read said that WCW done a big kind of complete reset. They almost pushed the reset button back in the day, and then brought all the characters back, forgot about all the feuds and everything that was going on, and started afresh. It wasn't that long after the WWE bought WCW, so I don't know whether it necessarily worked. But if there's ever been a time certainly in the main roster at the moment, where that could be needed, and I don't think WWE would be bought by anyone else straight after either. But I feel like they've really mucked up here with just everything they've done with Retribution. I think it's been really poor. And that's my opinion. I know some people might enjoy it, but I just feel like they've had so much success with these sorts of angles in the past, with Nexus, with the Shield, with DX probably. I can't remember how they entered the fray back in the day, but certainly from the ones that I do recall, they've done it really well. And this way just seems, I mean, even the masks, I mean, you can tell exactly who that. We're not idiots, and maybe it's because I'm looking through it through adult eyes, and maybe as a kid I might look at it differently. Maybe if I was 10 or 11 again watching it, I might think, wow, who are these mysteries? Because that used to be cool when you didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
But it's like Mia Yim. I mean, Jesus, it's so obvious. And what's even weirder is, like, you've got her other half, Keith Lee, who's on the same roster. Like, what is he in on it? Are they going to bring her in is she going to have a different name? Because I did read one report that was saying she was the main leader of this group. So again, I mean, we're yet to see that. But and then what about all the rest of them who turn up when there's kind of 20 of them around the ring? It just doesn't make sense. And who are they? Like, I really struggle with it. Really struggle.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many plot holes from start to finish, and I literally think that a lot of things you said is completely right there. I mean, the thing is, we're laughing at the names that we've been given to the guys. We don't even know what the girls have been called yet. I mean, they could have some funny names given us this week that we can look forward to. Maybe that's a reason to tune in. Maybe that's what we've given up on good storytelling. We're going to give you some funny names if you tune in every week for new roster members. But I mean, it's just. I mean, it's a mess from start to finish. Like you say, if there's a reason to hit the reset button on this, it's now really you want to see them just thrown in Hell in a Cell, like maybe not a Hell in a Cell match, but just thrown in a match. And like, if you lose, you disband and you're done with, or literally just buried in a match, because this needs writing off quickly to even try and rescue some of these people's careers. It feels because how do you come back from it? Some of the superstars who've had such bad gimmicks in the past don't get taken seriously ever again. I mean, even if you look at Matt Cardona, for example, I mean, poor Zack Ryder, I mean, the crap he's had to go through over the last decade or so when he got himself over with his, Long Island Z story that he did on YouTube. And even though he goes into AEW, you still don't take him fully seriously. And it's really a shame that you see those sort of moments and you think to yourself, well, this really does have that sort of impact. I mean, with these sort of names that have been given as well. I mean, honestly, Slapjack. Do you know what I mean? It's just where do you start? Like, it's really bad. And I mean, they could have actually helped themselves a little bit if there was just a little bit of continuity where they weren't signed to WWE, and maybe if then they'd said, "Oh, the problem is all the people signed to WWE and sold out for the money. Our opportunity's been passed up." You might have seen it, and maybe they could have fought for contracts and guarantees of that they're going to get their opportunities at Survivor Series. That would have made sense, and you'd have turned around and said, okay, they've got stupid names, but maybe I'd forgiven the storyline intent with it. But I mean, how did they get their contracts? I mean, is Adam Pearson on this?
It could well be, but I mean, again, they've even explained it like they're a group that want to kind of take down the WWE brick by brick. I think that was their words, something like that. So the WWE offer them contracts. Where's the sense in that?
No.
There was no sense in that. And again, sometimes you just got to question who's signing these ideas off, because me and you aren't professional writers, but we could have brought them into WWE in a hell of a lot better way than what WWE have. And it's a product and a company that we've followed since we were young. And it's had its ups and downs with all different storylines that me and you could rewrite and sign off and agree on things that have happened and disagree on other things. But this one just really stinks.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good way to leave it. And it just as a close off for this, really, because I know we have a few other topics we need to touch on before we close off the show. But I know that is there any way back for these guys? I think even after 1 week, I mean, can you rescue this?
It needs more depth if they're going to do that, but I think the damage has already been done. That's the worry. I feel like unless there's some additional big reveal and then they all come out as who we know them as, and that's the thing. Like, NXT has always been about promoting, building superstars from a developmental area, although it's less of that now than it ever has been. But then it's so much more of a main show now that fans will watch all 3 shows and know all them wrestlers. So to then put them over and change their name, it's different when you're bringing them in from outside.
Yeah.
Because if you're lucky enough to be able to see wrestling from the outside and in independence and things like that, then you might recognise certain people. And we've had certain wrestlers come into WWE and have to have their names changed so that WWE own that name or that trademark. But to do it this way, when it's from within, it just doesn't make any sense. And I feel like they've really shot themselves in the foot a little bit here.
Absolutely, and especially when NXT is on the USA Network, the same station as Raw. It's not even with SmackDown, where at least it's on Fox. So, there are plot holes left, right, and centre here. And good luck to those in Retribution, because unfortunately, you guys aren't to blame. You're the ones that are just having to show this stuff on a weekly basis. So, poor you guys, but let's hope you can turn it around somehow, or someone can at least turn it around so you've got a better direction for you. Quick topic I want to talk about as well is Allyah, of course, with the Mysterio family, her program that seems to be now. It looks almost as if, according to Dave Meltzer, that rumours are going around that she could be the one that could turn on the Mysterio family. I know it's something that George has been speculating for a number of weeks now. And, of course, Seth Rollins had this program going as well, and she's involved with Murphy in places as well. Are you enjoying this storyline that's playing out?
I mean, it takes it... The thing with this storyline, it feels like it's been going on for a long time now. That would be my only problem with it. And at least it's a fresh element to it. That would be the one positive for me. I can't see where it's going because, as far as I'm aware, she's not a wrestler in training or anything like that, is she? So,
no.
So yeah, it's another element to the story. But again, I feel like the problem is, and you and I have said it before, and I saw on your predictions video for Clash of Champions, there's certain matches that we've seen 7, 8, 9 times now, and you're just like, let's wrap this up and move them on. Like, they need fresh direction. And I'm pretty sure Seth's going to be going on a bit of a break anyway after whatever program he's on at the moment. So let's see where it goes, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, if I was to hope a direction, I mean, it looks like Murphy could be the one that she seems to be more intent of having camera time with. And maybe, I mean, there's been the split idea as well with Murphy and Rollins also. So maybe they finish off Ray and Rollins, and then maybe the program will look to be Ray and Murphy. But at the same time, we could have, obviously, Murphy and Rollins could set Rollins off for his break. Maybe he comes back Rumble time, maybe. Certainly a bit of speculation. But you mentioned Clash of Champions there, James, and certainly you've given your thoughts there a little bit there. But do you have any major predictions for the show that you're looking forward to for this Sunday?
No, I think it looks, unless there's any surprises, I think it looks, the one thing I feel could happen would be Keith Lee involved somewhere in the main event. I saw on your predictions that you said you think Randy Orton could come away with the gold at the end of it. I agree. Drew's been a good, strong title holder. I think he's definitely carried a lot of Raw and the company on his shoulders over the past kind of 6 to 7 months. But I just feel like Keith Lee's been kind of promoted up to the main roster, and I feel like he's had the rug pulled from him a few times with interferences in matches, and not really had the rub since he's been up there. And not that I want him to turn heel as such, because I'm not sure how that would work just yet. But I feel like he could be the one, if it is going to go to Randy Orton, that could cost Drew. And that could then set up a feud between them. That's one idea that I had. But other than that, I don't really see any big shocks on the card.
No. I think that certainly could be a more straightforward card. Can I ask your feelings with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso? If only The Rock was coming back.
I mean, it was an interesting way to go, but it's got... There's a story there from the start, which is a good thing. If you're trying to book something really quickly and you've got two people that are part of the same family, then it's an interesting way to go and an easier setup, because you've got a bit of a backstory there between them to work on and make it a bigger match than what it is. I mean, if you look at it on paper, Roman Reigns wins that, 10 out of 10 times probably. I don't ever see. Is it Jey Uso, did you say?
It is, yes.
Yeah, I don't even see Jey ever coming out on top of that match. It's been built well. I think.
Well, I mentioned The Rock there. I jumped the gun, unfortunately, because there's been a few rumours going around with Roman Reigns in the last little bit. And one of those was that this could be one of the placeholders that could actually bring The Rock back for WrestleMania 37. It could be a match with Reigns and The Rock. The Rock went on to spoil it with his quotes as well. They said that he would be happy. The only person he would come back for, and it would make sense of a match with Roman Reigns, he'd be happy to put him over. Spoiler Rock. I mean, honestly, at least let's buy the pay-per-view on the network or something, you know what I mean, first. But no, I mean, would you be excited to see that idea of a match?
Yeah. I mean, the second you just hear The Rock's music, your hairs go up on your arm or whatever, you get goosebumps. Because him, Austin, Taker, them legends of wrestling, they've just got that kind of it factor that you want to watch. Doesn't matter whether, we've recently seen Undertaker matches where you were more worried for him than you were excited about it as such. The Rock, I think, could still go because he keeps himself in such great condition. And again, a bit like the Uso match this weekend, there's a backstory there as well. There's a history between them. So it could certainly work, especially the way Roman's being pushed more as kind of a heel, kind of with Heyman in his corner. The Rock comes back. I mean, March, April, whenever the next Mania isn't that far away. So it'd be a good build to it.
Absolutely. There's not many movies coming out either, so maybe that schedule is a bit clearer for The Rock to come. Because his last match was at WrestleMania 32 in a 6-minute squash of Eric Rowan. So if there was to be one more Rock match, I think many would like to see something more other than a Rowan match. But well, I mean, that's pretty much with Clash of Champions then. But Roman Reigns, just one more note on that, he actually has said on a fan call that he could be... new sort of attire look. Apparently it could be shirtless on Sundays, a new sort of look, and perhaps more of a new theme music could be on the way very soon as well. More as we go in towards the character, because at the moment it's not full on heel, it's sort of layer by layer, and when more evil things happen, we could get new music down the line. I think that fans have been crying out for this for a long time with Roman Reigns. I'm very happy about the prospect of a break away from all this Shield stuff that he's been linked to ever since breaking up from the group. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same. He's still, and this is one of the complaints I've heard from a lot of people, when him, Seth and Dean Ambrose, as he was in WWE, split, he kept all the Shield music, he kept the attire. So, I think he's a a fit guy. I'm sure he's not. I know Vince has got this issue with certain physiques. We've seen it with Keith Lee. Changing his attire from what he wore in NXT, which just hasn't worked for me either. I think we all come in different shapes and sizes, and it's how you embrace it and how you kind of make it yours, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't try and cover yourself up. And I think with Reigns, he's been in that kind of gimmick with the music, with the look for so long now. Everyone needs to freshen up at certain times. And other than changing the colour of his kind of chest plate thing, he's just been the same. So, it's been a long time. So I think he does need that. I think he used to just wear trunks when he was in NXT when he first came on the scene. So it's not like it's something new for him. But I'm sure, whatever they decide, it'll be a good freshen up for him.
Absolutely, indeed. Absolutely. Well, we're coming towards the close of the show now. So very quickly, just touch on Impact Wrestling before we do. Of course, another match has been announced this week for Bound for Glory. We already had Eric Young against Rich Swann announced for the championship. We know at Victory Road that Eric Young will be defending against Eddie Edwards. So Edwards won't be on the Bound for Glory card in the championship by the looks of things if we got the direction right here. But we do know that Deonna Purrazzo and Kylie Rae is official now for the Knockouts Championship. Should be a solid match between the two ladies.
Yeah, definitely. And Kylie Rae's actually improved a hell of a lot, I think, and although I'm sure she won't be many people's picks to win the match, I think she'll still put on a good show.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think she's really gone above and beyond, and her work in ring has really improved over the last 12 months. I expect it's going to be a killer match between these two. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I also wanted to touch on Heath for Impact because, literally, I found it so entertaining. I thought it was a great way they did this sort of video of trying to get Heath to be signed for Impact Wrestling, saying he can go where he wants, when he wants, and being told, sorry, mate, you're in the way, get out. The fact his use of Rhino and Rhino being an endangered species and needing Heath there to be with him. The fact as well, his kids as well, trying to say, look, come on, give my dad a job kind of thing was really fun. And the cameos as well, David Hasselhoff in there and Chuck Norris. Just so much fun. Saying you should have him on Impact Wrestling. I really thought that this was a good bit of fun here, and I think that Impact really nailed this one out of the park.
Yeah, and they can do that sort of thing with Heath. It does remind you of the I've Got Kids kind of sketch that he done back in the day with WWE. He was always good with that sort of stuff. So this fits perfectly with his character and even Rhino, like, when you see him cracking the kind of straight face jokes that he's doing without trying to laugh. It's just really good. And credit to Impact on that.
So they did a great job there. Really, really enjoyed it. ROH, just to quickly touch on them as well. This week they had more pure matches there and going through. Matt Sydal won, so he will be taking on Jonathan Gresham in a couple of weeks' time. And of course, Finley's son, David Finley, won as well. So he'll be taking on Jay Lethal as well in a couple of weeks' time on their respective matches. The pure tournament has been a lot of fun so far. AEW as well. They did a Dynamite late night on Tuesday this week, and Brian Alvarez revealed the ratings for it. A late night Dynamite apparently was almost like how we have to watch wrestling usually from the Greenwich Mean Time stand of things. And it went on to about 2 a.m, I believe, for AEW Late Night Dynamite. They still attracted 585,000 fans, which I think is very successful. The fact that they had it on such late night. So props to them for doing so. I just want to quickly touch on Twitter as well, like the Twitter feedback, getting people's favourite moments of the week just before we finish off with the show. Shout out to Jamie, the controversial one, Holmes, who said that his favourite moment of the week has been Kyle O'Reilly winning the Gauntlet Eliminator to get the NXT Championship match at TakeOver. He said he can either see Undisputed Era turning face or Carl breaking away to pursue a singles career. We've pretty much touched on that, but we agree that it's an exciting direction for Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think he could. He's got so much potential as well as a single star, and it's always promising to see that.
Absolutely, and his character work as well. He's just, I don't know, he's got a way, he's a very likable guy on the camera. And he can do a goofy role, he can be serious, and I mean, he can be annihilated in the ring as well. It's kind of right, he just has an it factor about him. So we're very excited to see where it's going to go from there. Mike, Italian Habs Mike, who likes to get involved as well on SCW, he said the Gauntlet match as well, the slow burn of the face turn for Kyle O'Reilly, he's loving the way that's been booked. He said also Candice winning, and he said they've tore the house down at TakeOver Toronto 2. He's got no doubt they'll do it again. I think that he's spot on with that. George Vorkus, I hope I've said that right there. He said that O'Reilly finally getting the shot. And also the return of NXT UK. I mean, tonight they've got Kay LeRae, not to be confused there, taking on Piper Niven for the NXT UK Women's Championship. Pete Dunne is going to be in the house as well. Are you excited with the prospect of them being back in the BT studios?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they go, because I've seen the studio, it looks really good. So yeah, and Pete Dunne, I know he's been restricted to not being able to get back to the US, so I know he's going to be involved in the producing of the UK show. I don't know if it'll be too much in-ring action, but let's see what happens. It's exciting times for the UK version.
Absolutely. When still the Heritage Cup, and I need one more participant. I'm keeping those fingers crossed that Pete Dunne's going to be that last one. But hopefully we'll find out tonight. Fingers crossed the draw is going to be made on NXT UK tonight. Also, last but not least, Thomas NG 27 on Twitter saying Zelina Vega getting an opportunity at the Women's Championship. Now, we haven't asked that, so I'd like to know your thoughts on that very quickly, James. Are you happy to see Zelina Vega getting a chance against Asuka?
I mean, it's a fresh opponent as such for her, so that's good. But I much prefer her work as a manager to a wrestler rather than as an in-ring. And that's no disrespect to her in-ring abilities. I just don't think she's got that believability as being a top card wrestler in that division. However, I would say AJ Lee was very much the same when she was involved in WWE. I never saw her as the top level, but she proved me wrong in that. So could be in for a surprise. I doubt it would be this weekend, but we shall see.
We shall indeed. And of course, Bianca Belair as well got a video package this week. Peyton Royce was protecting against Asuka. Looks like that we've got some pushes and perhaps a fresh division coming on Raw.
Yeah, and it needs to. They need to keep an eye on what NXT are doing and do the same there. So keeping it fresh, that's the main thing. Absolutely.
Do you just one last touch before we close off the show? Angel Garza and Andrade, do you think that they're going to suffer now without Zelina Vega?
Again, it's one of them ones where it's been going on for so long. There have been kind of hints that they were going to break up, and then they got back together. Who knows what they're going to do? They could easily come away and win the titles this weekend. So you just don't know with what WWE are thinking with them.
Absolutely. And last point this week, then, before we close off the show, SmackDown, of course, is tomorrow. Otis has got a big decision to make with the Money in the Bank situation. Of course, Miz and Morrison have seemed to put a lawsuit on him from out of nowhere, seems to try and get this briefcase off of him. It makes absolutely zero sense, but certainly, I guess it's at least a storyline for these two tag teams going forward. Otis is the Money in the Bank holder. Do you want to see it change to the Miz?
I always thought it was a bit of a strange decision putting the Money in the Bank on him personally, although he was riding a bit of a wave at the time. And again, with the dynamic of where the title's at the moment, it probably would make more sense for it to stay on Otis, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if the draft does happen, as we keep hoping it will, I'm hoping he'll go to Raw, and hopefully from there, maybe a bit of an easy direction for him to cash it in. And he could be the first person as well. Let's not rule this out. To actually almost run out of time for the Money in the Bank. We've never had that before. That could be a fresh storyline that could take place. So I could see Otis being that kind of person that forgot to cash it in. I mean, that would certainly be something as well. But we'll have to wait and see what happens for that on SmackDown tomorrow. But James, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being on board.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Really appreciate it. And I'll look forward to coming on again sometime.
Yeah, well, we're always welcome on the channel. It's always great to have you on board. And please, to anyone that has been watching this, please like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell as well. You can make sure that you're up to date with videos as and when they are released. They're coming like wildfire at the moment. Seems to be videos coming on daily. James mentioned my Clash of Champions, easy for me to say. Those predictions are on the channel for you now, so go and check them out. 100 views in around 24 hours. I'm really pleased with that. So thank you to everyone that's been watching. And hopefully we can get a few more views before the weekend. And of course, if you've got anything you want to talk about, then in, interact in the comment section. Love to talk. It's always good when you have a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think of the show, what your favourite part of this week has been, and if there's any talking points you would like to discuss. But that's all from us anyway. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. This has been This Week in Wrestling, episode 10. Take care. Have yourselves a great day.